I don't know.
Isinglass isn't cheap.
Right, I know. That's what it kind of is, but.
Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the City Council for Walton Beach on Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. If you have a cell phone, if you please turn it off or put it on vibrate. I'd really appreciate that. And then if you'll stand, please, Reverend David Knight from St. Simon's is going to lead us in the invocation. And remain standing because we're going to call up the Boys and Girl Scouts to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thanks, you're honored to be here. Today is my mother's 90th birthday. And I was with her this weekend back in Mississippi where I'm from. I told her I was coming here tonight to pray for the opening of the city council. She was not the least bit impressed. But here we go anyway. Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for these who offer themselves in your service and to the service of this community. We pray that you will give them foresight to provide for the needs of all of your people and to fulfill their obligations in the community amongst us. Teach all of our people, all of our citizens to rely on your strength and to accept our own responsibilities to their fellow citizens, that we may elect trustworthy leaders who will make wise decisions for the well-being of our community. Now, Father, send down upon those who hold office in this city of Fort Walton Beach a spirit of wisdom and charity and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all your people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Scouts, if you'll please come forward and stand down in here and then lead us in the pledge. These young men and women are from Troop 509 at Clover Field. We're ready when you're ready.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you turn around just for a second, we're going to get a quick picture. And
Smile.
smile.
Should we stand? What do we do?
Why don't we stand up?
You want to scoot in?
Sure.
Let's make it a nice one for the.
Absolutely.
Good, no, David's not here.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scouts. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right, Council, may we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman DeBerry and seconded by Councilman Meade to approve the agenda as presented. Any further comment? Comment? Council, please vote.
Go ahead, I didn't have Mr. Schmidt out.
Oh, okay. So by show of
So,
hands,
it's unanimous.
that does pass 5-0-1 abstention. Thank you, Council. That brings me to a proclamation for the American Red Cross. Is Terry Jenkins here this evening? Oh, you're Terry. Okay. If you'll come forward, I'll come down on the floor. Thanks for being here. All right, whereas during American Red Cross month of March, we recognize the compassion in people of Fort Walton Beach and reaffirm our commitment to care for one another in times of crisis. And whereas this generous spirit is woven into the fabric of our community and advances the humanitarian legacy of the American Red Cross founder, Clara Barton, one of the most honored women in our country's history, who nobly dedicated herself to alleviating suffering. Whereas today, kind-hearted individuals in our community exemplify Barton's commitment as they step up through the American Red Cross Northwest Florida chapter to provide a beacon of hope for our neighbors in need. Through their voluntary and selfless contributions, they make a life-saving difference in people's darkest hours, whether it's delivering shelter, food, comfort during disasters, providing critical blood donations for hospital patients, supporting military families, veterans, and caregivers through their unique challenges of service, saving lives with first aid, CPR, and other skills, or delivering aid and reconnecting loved ones separated by global crisis. And whereas their support, volunteerism, and generous donations are critical to our nation's resilience, we hereby recognize the month of March in honor of all those who fulfill Clara Barton's noble words, "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it," and ask everyone to join in this commitment. Whereas we hereby recognize this month of March in honor of those who have led with their hearts to serve people in need, we ask everyone to join in this commitment to strengthen our community. Now therefore, I, Dick Rynearson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, do hereby proclaim March 2024 as American Red Cross Month and encourage all citizens of Fort Walton Beach to reach out and support this humanitarian mission. In witness whereof, I appear to step forth my hand. And Terry, this is for you, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for everything you do for Red Cross. And Mr. Peters, I think you got some employee recognition.
We do.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, once a month, whenever we have employees with the city of Fort Walton Beach that gets to their 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, sometimes 40 years employment with the city, we like to recognize them in the council meeting. We do have a couple of 5 years, a couple of 15, and one at 25. The first one, Chief Robert Page, 5 years. We've got welder Keaton Lewis, 5 years, and if they're not here, just give them a round of applause and we'll make sure that they're. We've got actually Mayor Dick Rynearson, 15 years. We've got two fire employees, Nathaniel Dubois, 15 years, and Chief Morgan will give these to those guys, and Fire Captain Justin Westmoreland, 25 years.
That brings us to item number 7, consent agenda. May we get a motion?
Mayor, I move the consent agenda for approval.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilman Allegretto and seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further comment?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to remove item 7 point, depends on which one you're looking at, Ms. Barnes, 7.3 and 7.4. The one I printed, it looks like they're mixed up, so I would like to remove the item that's shown on the one we have, which is for the professional services, and have it immediately after the consent agenda.
It's RFP
6488.
It's RFP 240004.
All right, well, the motion is to approve the agenda as presented. We need to vote on that, and then we can, if it fails, then we can take that off the agenda. Council, please vote.
Do we have a chance for discussion first?
Certainly, yeah, yes. Well, for discussion, certainly.
I'm not opposed to the consent agenda, but I'm also not opposed to any questions to staff or rehearing. I don't, so.
Yeah, and I would also say, Councilman Walker, I know you're trying to abide by the rules and go and take it off the consent agenda, but since I've already made a motion, I mean, I would be glad to also hear about your questions pertaining to that item. So.
Okay, in the points of discussion?
Yeah, let's just do it.
Okay, sure. So at the beginning or at the end of the last meeting, Councilman Allegretto, you pointed out something poking good fun at me, and I took it that way, which was that we could meet with staff separately. So
Not just at you, though.
I know. I mean, it was a good fun, and it came up, and it came up at an appropriate time. So today, I guess once again, I'll ask the question, Mr. Peters, what is it that determines an item makes it onto the consent agenda versus being a separate line item? This is $125,000 taxpayer spend on one of the most important, heavily discussed topics in our city today, and it's on the consent agenda. So I'd like to, I know you've tried to address it to me before, either I forgot, I don't remember the answer, or
Yeah,
understand.
typically, our consent agenda items are items that are in the budget. They're under budget, under what we put in the budget. And so those are placed on the consent agenda because council's already approved them through the budget process. They're brought back to council because they're over the threshold spending of the city manager, so it's brought back to council for approval again, but they were already approved during the budget process, so that's why they're placed on the consent agenda. If something that pops up in the middle of the year, a project that comes up in the middle of the year, that would go under action item, but since it was already approved by you all during the budget process, that's why they're placed on the consent.
And so when we have a consent agenda item, which is this topic, and it's, like I said, it's the biggest, it's around the mound, it's redesigning downtown and everything, and to think that council doesn't have a chance to publicly address any concerns, questions, or promotions in that thing, I feel we're, cheating the public of their representatives' comments on the item. So, I've got lots more questions, and I don't mind moving it to the end of the meeting, having it right now with everyone here, but I do have a lot of questions about it because I've not met with you prior to discuss any of this. I don't know, have any of the other council members met with you to go over this particular item,
Yeah, not the item.
Professional services?
And the RFP would be to award it. There's, and Chris can answer more to this, but there's a number of workshops, council workshops, public involvement workshops that's required in the RFP. This is the start to award them to start the process. So there'll be a lot of council interaction, public workshops involved in council meetings and things like that through this process.
So tonight, if this were approved, it would be approving the $125,000 spend to begin that process with them, when I guess my questions kind of center around the order of events, which I would say, for lack of better words, putting the cart before the horse. We've got a major road reconstruction, which I know in here it references the downtown master plan, and the downtown master plan, its first sentence on it begins with the financial feasibility of the entire project. And from one of the meetings previously, I asked you about, are there any updated financial feasibility studies since 2017, and there's not been. So to think now that today we're going to be spending $125,000 on a design project, which, I've got some questions about what Matrix provided back then, what they're going to provide now, and are we putting the cart before the horse? So I would love to hear the rest of council members' questions or concerns, if any, in a separate discussion outside of the consent agenda. Let's pull it out, let's open it up to questions, or I'm open to them now. Does anyone have any questions about the item that's the RFP for professional planning services, downtown design?
We actually have, I don't remember the name already, available on Teams.
Okay.
If you had questions that we can pop them in.
Teams is from the group.
From Kimley Horn, yes.
Kimley Horn out of Tallahassee.
Correct.
Sure, I might as well bring her in.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
She hasn't signed on yet.
Mayor, we also have the police awards too. Then.
Yes, I missed that. If we can get this young lady on Teams, let's go ahead. Let me hold this whole discussion and let me do the police awards, which I forgot to do. So we're going to move right now. We've got a motion and a second. We're on hold, but we're going to go ahead and do the police awards. Chief Page.
Thank you, Mayor. We'd like to present our annual awards to our officers that work and dedicated through the 2023 year. They were a little bit held up because with everything else, there's shipping delays and manufacturing delays for the awards. So we apologize if they're coming in March. We generally like to do this in January or February. And I'm going to cut right to the chase. Our first quarter award goes to Corporal Kelly Stanley. If you can please come up. And real briefly, she got nominated. We have an awards committee. The awards committee voted. In the first quarter of 23, she was on a narcotics investigation, and she was able to locate a Draco AK-47 pistol. And if it wasn't for the extra dedication she took on the call and the extra time to properly search and locate this firearm, there would have been a double homicide in Pensacola that may not have gone solved, because this was the murder weapon from a double homicide in Pensacola. The Pensacola Police Department was grateful for Kelly's outstanding work on this case. Our department and our community was also grateful for her hard work and dedication. And this is only one example of the work that she does. There was a tragic homicide which occurred that stemmed from the Vibe. This was probably one of the bigger cases that Kelly worked about 2 years ago. And it took her 6 months to a year?
7 months.
7 months. That was 6 months to a year, so it fell right in that window to resolve the case. And this was a major case that was closed. So it's only a sampling of her work, and we'd like to officially recognize her as the officer of the first quarter of 2023. The next one is Sergeant Charles Pettis. He was for the second quarter. He's not here tonight because of other obligations. I don't know how many of you remember there was an incident at the Busy Bee, and this occurred last year where he was traveling to a conference and he heard what he thought were gunshots being fired from around the corner at the Busy Bee. He immediately ran over to determine what was going on. Didn't know if it was an active shooter, if there was a robbery going on, or what might have been going on at the time. When he went around the corner, he noticed that there was a trooper that was involved in an incident with a semi-truck driver. It had turned out the semi-truck driver was wanted, and he had then engaged in a gun battle with the trooper. The trooper had retreated, and Sergeant Pettis was able to provide assistance to the trooper until additional troopers responded. So Sergeant Pettis definitely went above and beyond that day, and we'll present him his plaque at a later date and time. Officer Seth Williams was for the third quarter. He also had another obligation tonight and could not attend. There was a person on the Brooks Bridge, right at the top of the bridge, that was threatening to jump over and off the bridge. This is something that probably happens, unfortunately, a few times in the year. It's sometimes a coin toss whether we get the call or the sheriff's office gets the call. So we got the call this time. Officer Williams and some other officers went up there. Officer Williams immediately identified the person was having a crisis, started to de-escalate the situation, and as soon as he could gain control of the person, grabbed the person, was able to pull him back onto the bridge, and was able to get the person to Fort Walton Beach Medical Center for proper medical follow-up. So we received officer of the third quarter. The officer of the fourth quarter, we had two officers of the fourth quarter. One was K-9 Officer Anthony Trujillo, who's also not here tonight. He had recently been assigned to the Marshals Task Force, as many of you were here when we entered into an interlocal agreement with the Marshal Service. So he knows of a lot of the wanted fugitives and felons that are in our area, and always has a keen eye open for the fugitives. He was actually off with his wife at a local shooting range. He saw somebody that he knew was a wanted felon that should not be in possession of a firearm, but was at a shooting range and was also wanted. He immediately contacted the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, got with management at the business, and was able to devise a plan to take the person into custody without incident. So we were able to get a wanted violent felon that had a firearm off the streets of our greater community. The other officer of the fourth quarter, and it was hard to decide who would get it, was Officer Mike Wilson, who is now Detective Mike Wilson. He was responding to a domestic violence call. As he was responding to the call, he got a description of the subject who was fleeing on a motorcycle. He noticed a subject matching that description as he was arriving in the area. He tried to stop the subject. The subject failed to yield, and a short pursuit started. The subject eventually pulled over, and the subject actually had a gun mounted to the front of his motorcycle and also had a gun on his side. So he was probably going to do something because he had made violent threats at the scene of the domestic, and that's why the police were called out to the domestic. Officer Wilson was able to take him to custody without incident, and we always look for those outcomes where we can take a wanted dangerous felon into custody with a minimal amount of force used. So Officer Wilson was also recognized as the officer of the fourth quarter. So that brings us up to our 2 Officer and Professional Employee of the Year. And I will do the Professional Employee of the Year first, which is the Professional Employee's Crime Scene Investigator, Sheila Mercer. And Sheila Mercer pretty much does everything and anything that you could possibly do as an employee for the city of Fort Walton Beach. She not only investigates the crime scenes, was an integral part of the homicide investigation that I talked about with Detective Kelly, with all the other investigations that we do. She's the one that ties together the fine details and puts together the small pieces that build the big cases. But in addition to that, in February of 23, she worked on Operation Refill, where she assisted the schools in collecting 510 pounds of food for their food pantries. Because there are students that go to school every single day that lack the proper nutrition that they need to go through the day and get a full value for their education. So the food pantry provides food and snacks with no questions asked to students at the school. In March, she then worked with Bed for Me, which is a local nonprofit which provides beds for people that don't have beds in our community, and she was able to secure 2 beds to be donated from the police department to the Beds for Me. In April, she worked with the city for their Bunny Hop Trail and was a key part of the Bunny Hop Trail. In June, she got with about a dozen students from the Pyramid Incorporated and demonstrated crime scene and fingerprinting to them to try to imprint that value of STEM and police science at an early age. She also did the same thing for the Behavioral Health, which is an exceptionary student service. So she did 2 crime scene demonstrations. In September, she provided multiple bags of dog food that she was able to collect to the community for Paws when Paws had a shortage of dog and cat food. In October, she dressed up as in the Barbie outfit and volunteered at the city of Fort Walton Beach Fall Festival. So like I said, she will do anything and anything and everything and anything for the city. In October, she also worked at the police department with a big event. I got the Barbie, I'm trying to skip through all the stuff, huge success. She also did the first time we ever did Cop with a Candy event in October. Cop with a Candy, we wanted to have a safe place for younger kids to come trick or treat. We decorated the station with some decorations that Sheila acquired and then passed out candy and provided proper community safety tips for trick or treating, how to dress, lighting, parents, and everything else. So that was a great event. And then in November and December, she worked on the Winter Wonderland event and built one of the Wonderlands, which was probably one of the showstoppers, which was a Candyland Winter Wonderland. So in addition to Sheila's 40 hours, she probably puts in another 40 hours volunteering every single week for the greater community of for the city of Fort Walton Beach. So Sheila, we wanted to present you with the Professional Employee of 2023. Thank you. And the final award will go to Corporal Shane Mooney. So Corporal Patrick Shane Mooney, and his award is kind of unique because it details a very holistic approach in what we want to see for somebody that we were going to give our Officer of the Year award to. So Shane took it on himself to basically become our IT liaison. So he's worked tirelessly with the IT department to improve the level of service in IT within the police department and try to really push forward a lot of the projects that may have been hanging out and not got quite past the finish line. He's also taken on the lead role from the police department to be our contact with Tyler Technology to bring our new CAD RMS system to the city of Fort Walton Beach and to the police department, which we really believe will be a game changer for a lot of the stuff that we do within the police department. So those 2 things right there would probably qualify somebody to be Officer of the Year. Corporal Mooney also got promoted to the rank of corporal, and he's really shown how to lead from the front. He is out there with his officers every single day, trying to make them better officers and provide better services to the residents of the city of Fort Walton Beach. And one of the incidents that Corporal Mooney had done for himself, or initiated himself, he didn't do it for himself, where there are several subjects that are hanging out on our apartment complex on Perry Avenue. He approached them, they all scattered and took off on foot. He was able to establish a perimeter, contain the subjects within the perimeter, detain the subjects, and then he was able, through interviews and investigations and assist from other department members, obtain search warrants for a vehicle that was in the parking lot and for an apartment that was at the apartment complex. Those search warrants led to the recovery of fentanyl, which is a extremely toxic and poisonous drug. And I believe he got enough fentanyl from that arrest to probably kill every single person in the city of Fort Walton Beach. And 3 firearms. One of the firearms was used in a homicide in Escambia County, and then 1 firearm was stolen from Escambia County, and 1 firearm was stolen from Walton County. So this was a major arrest, which numerous agencies had called us for weeks and months afterward to get intelligence, names, guns, and other stuff that we got from this investigation. And it probably stopped numerous other crimes and violent crimes from happening in the Fort Walton Beach area. On top of that, and another kind of glimpse into who Corporal Shane Mooney is he was driving home from off-duty detail, and he was out on Hollywood in the Commerce and Technology Park, and noticed just a little light glimmering in the woods. And it was probably about 25 yards off the roadway, and he thought there was maybe something out there, wasn't quite sure what he saw, so he stopped, and he does what he does best, he investigated. He knew that there was something wrong with this situation. He was able to determine that a car had crashed into the woods, and then just by chance he saw a little bit of light coming off the car, and he was able to retrieve the person that was injured in the car crash, bring them out to the roadway, and have fire department and EMS assess the person and transport them to the medical center for their injuries. And if it wasn't for Shane's immediate action in there, it's unknown how that situation would have turned out. If the person would have been found later that night, or more likely probably would not have been found the next day. So these 2 incidents are just highlights of what he does every single day. In addition to trying making the department a better place for his IT work, for his work with Tyler Technology, for leading from the front as a corporal, he's also out there making a positive impact on a daily basis for the people of the city of Fort Walton Beach. So Shane, we'd like to commend you for that. We'd like to award you with Mayor, we thank you for your time and for allowing us to present the awards here.
Thank you, Chief. And congratulations to you and your department and all the folks who got their well-deserved awards tonight, so thank you. All right, I'd like to recover from my earlier faux pas. And Nick, if you'll rephrase your motion to eliminate, approve the consent agenda minus 7.3.
Sure. I move for the consent agenda to be approved minus item 7.4, which I would like to see moved to later in the meeting.
7.3 for planning services, right?
It says 7.4 on the computer here. Mayor.
There's a mix-up.
Mine's different. Okay,
How
7.4.
about
Never mind.
RFP 24-004 to be moved, Mayor, to a time of your choosing later?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Berry, will you second that?
I'll second that.
All right. Now, council, further discussion? Please vote. All right, does pass unanimously. Thank you, council. Now we will take up item 7.4 for discussion. Mr. Walker, and do we have the young lady on the line?
We do. I could respond to some of the things while we're waiting for that to come on.
Sure.
Back to your question, I did interact with Mr. Peters on the phone as opposed to in person. But my understanding of the order of this is we want to have a fresh downtown plan in place on or before when the state engineers, they're around the mound, so that they can incorporate what we want into their plans. And so that's my understanding is why we're not waiting for them to first do the around the mound or first be funded fully for it, is because we want to have what's most efficient and best for us to give to them and say, please incorporate this into your plans. And I'm sure there's a reason not to, but that's kind of been my position is let's get ahead of the game and let's put what's best for our downtown to them so that hopefully they'll incorporate that into our plans.
Mayor, and if it's possible, Mr. Peters, I mean, could you just kind of, like, the scope of this is not so wide-ranging, I think, as well. I mean, if you could kind of explain the scope of what this entails.
Yeah,
Or Chris, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, this portion of this master plan, this future vision specifically is for the downtown design guidelines. So it's the visual, the architectural, the site features, the appearance, aesthetics of downtown and what we want it to look like is really this part of it. And like Councilman Meade said, really it's setting the vision so that the plan, that the vision is in place so that as new development comes into downtown, it meets this aesthetic, this vision of what we want to see downtown, but then it can also be handed off to DOT and everyone moving forward so that we're not trying to play catch up. We're not potentially seeing new development come in that doesn't meet the vision of what we want downtown to be, but then we have some new projects, some new development downtown that's potentially going to be there for decades going on, but really doesn't meet what we all have had in our minds for the last say 5 years. Specifically, that's just one small piece of it. It's not necessarily even tied to around the mound. This could exist regardless of whether around the mound went forward or not. It's a downtown design of what we want the city to look like, the downtown specifically to look like, just going forward.
And Mr. Fassetti, within the scope of work that we're potentially rewarding to this company, stakeholder meetings,
Yes.
Community input, all of that is part of this plan, correct? I mean, we want to hear from as many people as possible, and that's what we're trying to hire them to do, is to handle that whole process.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're professional planners. They're certified planners. They're experienced planners, and in that, within the scope of this bid that we put out there, and what they returned as a proposal to us, has like 5 community meetings. There's a couple of stakeholder meetings. They're going to have a survey out there online posted there's a whole web interface for that. There's going to be a community charrette. Then there's going to be city council workshops, city council meetings. There's going to be a whole handful of meetings over about a 6-month process, from the beginning to the end, to really try and, whatever the final product is. Our goal is it's had the input of everybody within the downtown, and something that everyone can support and get behind.
And within the city at large.
Absolutely,
as well.
yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions, comments?
Sure, Mr. Meade, thank you for that, because if I understood what you were talking about a little bit there, you were under the understanding that it might include some road.
It's the whole, how tall, how wide, what's the concept, where are we going, where are we planning, are we, the whole vision.
And so, in my questions, and not having been an integral part of it way back when, I think 2017, we can say the master plan kind of kicked off and became a living document, right?
It was done and completed in 2019, around May 2019.
Okay, it's around the mound, it's the 2017, I think it come up. So I keep, when I come to these meetings, not having been a part of it back then, I go to the master plan, and I look at what it starts out and says we will do, and what they said we would do, and so I just always looked at it as kind of the plan. Where's the order? And I know there's some visionary statements in here and all, and so when we start page 1 of the conceptual pro forma. Central to any redevelopment effort is the financial feasibility of the project. If I stop there and talk about the $125,000 that we're speaking about today, do we have a financial feasibility study of the project updated from 2017? Because that's when these numbers are from. So you know what I'm saying? If we're like, oh man, the financial feasibility study didn't show that it would work. We're like, man, we just spent $125,000 back then trying to do some designing and planning when the financial feasibility. So I know I've mentioned it before, financial feasibility, and I asked if there were any updates then, and there weren't any a couple of meetings ago, 4, 5, 6 meetings ago. you know, I have warmed to the entire idea of around the mound, downtown redevelopment and all that. I'm warming up to it. I can see the benefits. I've been talking to business owners downtown and others around, and they're excited and thinking of what it might do. That still doesn't change my concern that we might be putting the cart before the horse in something. And maybe it's just in this. I'm not saying, I absolutely believe that a planning committee process and all would likely be a part of it, although I do have questions when, you know, we had MX3 zoning come up. I looked at some of the questions and answers by the firm out of Tallahassee, and they had some questions about what happened previously and why it didn't get approved. And so there's still we're about to be investing some money in a potential or just I don't even say a project, it's a study that they're gonna come back with more recommendations. And I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. Does anyone else feel that, sense that, think that's possible? Jeff, what would you say is, you know, we don't know, and they do, and I'll look for it in a minute. I say she, the person who provided the questions and answers, they've, now I'll dig it, let me get past this, actually it's right here. She had some, I don't say valid concerns, but questions about the unadopted architectural guidelines of 2008 and design guidelines of 2000. What happened to those? Why aren't you using those? And so, in my mind, are we just expecting to, you know, for them to provide prettier pictures, for lack of better words, you know, to sell it a little bit better? But for $125,000 to get better pictures or design, we're not changing their study does not include road rerouting. And they actually point out a concern, and I think it's here. They ask, the question is, has the final alignment and intersections of the future Miracle Strip Parkway on 98 been determined? Image below. We understand that the alignment is not the scope of the design guidelines. However, we want to ensure this area becomes more successful as a main street, and connectivity can play a key role in project viability. I think they're saying it might be too early for us to determine, to provide you the best study or design concepts without knowing where that road's going. I mean, I can only put myself over there quite a little bit, and you know, you've got planning districts and zones, and it's like, well, is the major road going to come through there? Not sure. And so we have them doing all of this work, which we're going to pay them good money for. It's my understanding that it's $125,000 for 6 months worth of production. Is that correct?
That's the timeline, yeah.
And would you describe for us in a summary, or as elaborate as you want, what that product will be, what we will receive from them at that time, in 6 months? What was the finished product?
Yeah, I mean, overall, and Chris can get into details, but overall, it was it's workshops, it's meeting with the public, it's public input, and it was recommended in 2019 that a design, that was a master plan that was done in 19. This is a design of what, as Chris said, what we want it to look like, and we want to work with FDOT to get, you know, we want the two to mesh. We want the around the mound and our downtown district and everything to mesh together. And it was recommended in 2019 that this was one of the steps to do that. But they get a lot of data input, stakeholders, city council, workshops, and get as much input and stuff as they can to say, this is what we're hearing from everybody in your community, and here's what we want to do, and here's how we think you should do it. And then we get a community buy-in, a city council buy-in, and we say, hey, here's what we came up with, and this is what it should look like according to our citizens.
Right, and stakeholders, and me being one of them, having my office downtown and being, you know, on the existing design plans, I'm directly impacted by it. I'm really close to the road at that point. So, you know, I'm just one stakeholder, but if DOT does not go north and go around the mound, my opinion about input as a stakeholder about designs will probably be different if the road's not going north. If it's still staying 98 and we need to work with what we've got, I might have some other opinions, but I don't know if the road's going north. If the road does go north, I like the elevated one. You know, I like the elevated approach. But if it's not gonna come through, I might be, you know, I might have questions and concerns about MX3 in that. So, I won't be able to support spending taxpayers' dollars on this project. I did go through and look at the professional planning services, and it brought up more questions that this firm, they obviously have the experience. I know they were vetted internally by staff. I did see that, you know, their holistic approach was to safeguard the unique character of a place. Well, if that road comes north of us and there's an elevated Highway 98, there's no preserving, you know, we'll just have to work with what we have. And I think it'll be fantastic if it does happen that way. It is to guide developers and property owners. Again, if the road's north, I'm like, we've got to do something downtown, south of that, and maybe even north of it. But if it stays through the middle, their whole design plan, I know you've said that it would work either way, whether it does come through or not come through. I'm not so sure that it does look the same if that road's going north or if it's staying south. So we might be wasting money with this firm to design something that is really, and I believe their question asked it is like, well, hey, that's a pretty major thing you guys have got going there. And they asked about it and they got a response, but you know, they're a full service firm, permitting approvals, public environmental programs, comprehensive planning, pre-development services. And then I look back at us, and Chris, I know we're a small town, we're small staffed and all. I never knew that we would have to have an outside firm come in to write new codes for us. I kind of thought that was what our staff did. I know MX3 was brought by you guys. The downtown master plan itself talks about planning and zoning in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, but it all starts with a financial feasibility study of which we don't have it updated yet. So I'm concerned and will remain concerned that we're throwing money at a project that there's too many unknowns at this point. I support the downtown master plan, I support around the mound, but I can't support spending this money tonight.
I think just to maybe answer one of your questions, you know, we as the council staff really want Around the Mound. We're here, hey, we're bringing a resolution on the 26th to support Around the Mound. We're at the top of the project list that's not shovel ready yet. So we're kind of going in to say, hey, let's get this, let's show them that we're prepared. We're doing this design plan to get our downtown ready. So when they say, hey, these guys are ready, they're in place, their design, they've already got the design plan done. Yep, they're the next one we're going to fund. So we're hoping that they buy into our enthusiasm of Around the Mound, whether it's raised or not. But I think it's important for us to get out in front of this before waiting at the end and hoping, and you know, I think it's important that they know that we're prepared.
Thank you for that, and that brings up a timeline question of, you know, we all went out to the convention center and listened to, you know, and saw the presentations, all the drawings. It looks wonderful, but we're still not at a point of the state saying it's happening. So when I was looking at this and thinking about the timeline, by the time the state says we're going north, in a 6-month project here, when they say we're going north and we've got the funding for it, they'll show us where the road's going, and that kind of leads this group to go, now we can plan accordingly exactly what you've got. We've not expended any time, but 6 months is so short of a period for this firm to pull their planning and input and community stakeholders and all that together. By the time the state says, guys, we're coming through, it's going to be years before they ever drop a shovel. It's going to be years, and we've got plenty of time to re-engage these people for 6-month project. Sounds like what they do. It's not going to be a problem. This is a small project compared to other ones they've done. I looked at their work, so they've done huge projects. So I like the idea of planning this type of stuff when the road is known and determined, and we'll know that when the state says it. So, thank you.
Mr. Walker, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, FDOT would absolutely love to have this design plan in their hands before they make their decisions and go forward. They're going to come to the city and ask for some skin in the game, because we can move up on the priority list if we put skin in the game. This is one way to do it, is to be able to hand them a design. The other is to hand them some funding up front. We can move from number 25 up to number 5 by playing it the way FDOT would like to play the game. So I think this is a critical step that we take to give FDOT what they're looking for, to know that Fort Walton Beach is serious. They know what they want to do. This is how they want it to be laid out, and we'll take that into strong consideration. What we don't want to do is go back to where we were with the bridge 20 years ago when nobody could make a decision and we floundered and nothing happened for years.
I appreciate that. And so with Matrix Design work that they did with the road, coming up with all of the alternatives, this firm is not going to be messing with any of that road structure that's already there. Our skin in the game is $125,000 that we have in the budget in reserve to spend at any time we want. And a group out of Tallahassee that's closely connected to the DOT over there, they know they've got experience. We've got the money to fund to fund the beautiful pictures. Again, I'm just concerned that we will be spending money that's going to have more money spent because the road changed, and it will not be their fault. They knew the road was going to change, and they're making these plans. It would be our, issue, because we're the ones that said, let's go ahead and do it now instead of it. Our money's there. They know our skin's in the game, in my opinion, and if others think otherwise, we can put it on the big board.
Any other discussion on this? Mr. Smith?
I kind of agree with a lot of the things that you've said, but I also understand and agree with the things that the mayor said. This, in my opinion, is going to be one of those things to where if we don't spend the money in the initial investment, the likelihood that this project keeps progressing is it's going to slow it down. And I don't want to be here like they were in the 80s, and now here we are 45 years later getting a bridge. I want to go into this, and this is how I kind of approach anything I want to do, knowing that I'm going to succeed at the end. So I'm going to keep taking the steps that it takes to succeed. Because if I look at the end and say, I'm not ready to get there, or we're not going to get there, it's never going to happen. We're just going to stop. I think that the community has absolutely, for the most part, I would say at least 80%, if not 90% from what I've seen, has support some form of around the mound. What that ends up being, I don't think we all know yet. I think this is another step in the process. Where I do get hung up on is probably a little bit of the timing. And my biggest hang up is, we've got one quote here. I don't care what I do. I don't like going with one quote for anything. And so, I know we have the money budgeted, but just because we have the money budgeted and just because we went through the process, just because we only got one quote back, I don't necessarily know that means that we have to go with what we have. I've said this before in things that we've gotten one quote beforehand. I would like to put it back out there and see if we can entice some other players in here, because this is a good project. I think this is a good project that if there's a lot of other design companies out there that know about it, that would bid on it. And I think that we do have the time. I don't believe our PD&E study is scheduled to be completed until, I think, July of 2025. So while I want to keep moving forward, I don't just want to go forward for the sake of going forward. I want to do it the smart way. And whether this is $124,000 and that other one's $240,000, at least I've got something to compare it to, and I know what I'm looking at. One thing I do have a question about, Chris, is in this, we're sitting here and we're talking about the overall design layout within the, whatever FDOT's going to do with the around the mound. Streets, sidewalks, green space, all of that stuff. Am I correct in that?
Not the layout per se, this is the appearance. So, and this is actually, even out, this is not just within, if there's an around the mound or within that, area south of 98 or new 98, this is the entire downtown design overlay district.
So we're talking from an architectural standpoint.
From an architectural standpoint, everyone I'm sure has a little bit different vision in their head, but what you picture for a downtown, for a walkable community, for what you want to see. This is just that vision of what we want the built environment to look like and feel moving forward, so that as, new development orders come in, new applications for review come in, if we have something in place and adopted, they meet some standards so that it's not so haphazard and just kind of random in what we see coming in. And the consultant for Kimley Horn is here. If you would like to hear from her anything specifically, I will say with this and even regarding the one bid, working with our purchasing division from the fall, after October, when this was approved in the budget, this funding was, we started engaging with Juliana and her team. We did send this out to about half a dozen professional planning firms throughout Florida, and even some outside of Florida, including the design group that did the downtown master plan, the design group that did our CRA plan update and CTP master plan a couple of years ago, and several others throughout the state. Kimley Horn was the only respondent from that, but it was posted pretty wide out there. Kimley Horn's worked with Daniel and his team some on the neighborhood traffic studies and some, and really across the board, we had representatives from 4 departments do this big evaluation committee, because we wanted to get feedback from kind of all departments that may touch that built environment, whether it's from policing to public works to recreation, and really across the board, we all felt very confident that Kimley Horn could do the job. We were very happy with theirs, even though it was the only one. We're definitely happy to see this response come in.
So within that being said, obviously, I am from the architectural standpoint, I do agree, because you go in our downtown right now and it's just kind of everything thrown on the wall. There's no consistency anywhere else. When I go on vacation to places, I walk downtowns, and where do you go? You can tell the thought out communities and the communities that weren't thought out. It's no different than right here on the beach. You go walk out to anywhere on South Walton, and those communities were planned from the get-go. Fort Walton Beach is older than all of those, and there was really no community planning back then when this happened, so we have what we have. So the idea is to get something in place, that way when the redevelopment happens, it's all going to be uniform and kind of have some sort of similar design aesthetic through it all the way across.
Exactly, and kind of one step further back in this process, the steps that we've kind of done along the way since 2019, one of the very first steps we did was to expand the boundaries of our downtown design overlay district. The master plan had an expanded boundary to the north, to the east, west a little bit. That was one of the first things we did, because in doing that opened up the flexibility of impervious surface, setbacks to property lines, and it opened up the door because, our concern worry is that if there was somebody in that outside the current boundary at that time, but, what was planned to be proposed to be expanded is that if a new development came in, they're going to have to fall into the standards of the rest of the city. They may not be able to build up to a property line. They may not be able to have the increased impervious surface and some of the downtown aesthetics and design that we currently have in the code. So we tried to get ahead of that to not, not make people miss out basically on this downtown. This is kind of the same idea, is that we want to get these guidelines, architectural guidelines in place, so that if somebody is thinking right now, hey, I want to develop something downtown, whether it's 6 months from now or a year from now, 6 years from now, the vision is in place to make that happen. I used an example with my staff the other day. We had a development order coming in for another area in the city, and not to go into specifics of it, but it was for somewhat of a big box or a box store. That's a typical, rectangular building, parking lot out front. For where it was, it's going to be a great improvement for kind of an underused vacant lot. But saying, hey, that looks great there. but it's not what we probably want to build downtown, that you're gonna have a big open parking lot, and there's a big box of the building at the back of that parking lot, you know, there's a ton, you know, there's a location for everything, every use, you know, it may look great, you know, where that one's proposed to go in the middle of the city, but, you know, if that came in tomorrow downtown, we'd have no choice but to have to approve it, to go in there, and we may be kicking ourselves saying, man, we wish we had some standard, something, you know, in place to, you know, really get built what we would love to see down here.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I also look at it as if we're making statements that eventually lead to questions. What I'm saying is, we have this going on right now. Like, this is going on right now in our downtown. Our downtown is changing right now. Like, new development is going in right now as we speak. People are interested in our downtown. Other people are looking at our downtown. There's buildings that are going to be available in the very near future. There's buildings that are available now. There's buildings that are changing. Regardless of if the road goes up north, and I absolutely agree with you on the sense that if we were conducting a downtown master plan right now, if we said, you know what we did in 2019, throw that out the window. We're not doing that. We're keeping it, and then we're adding to it. And we're saying, hey, this is how we want it to look. And the way that we're doing that is not paying someone to tell us how we want it to look. We're paying them to ask everybody, how do you want it to look? And they're going to involve stakeholders that own businesses downtown, people that run businesses downtown, people that use downtown, people that live downtown. I mean, there's all different, everything going on all around this downtown area, and it's changing so much from what we didn't like in the past to what we really do like now. Now what we need to make sure is, do we want it to look all consistent? Do we want it to look all hodgepodge? I think, as Mr. Smith said, we've had hodgepodge for so long, that's just kind of what we're used to. And I couldn't agree more, man. There's so many cool small towns all throughout Florida, all throughout the country, that you go to the downtown and it's like, wow, somebody really did a great job with this. And we have that opportunity right now. We're investing money in it. The state's investing money in it. We've got this new bridge coming in. And I just want to keep all of this momentum rolling. I want to keep all of these developers looking at our downtown and saying they're easy to work with. Their guidelines are very laid out and set forth. The people have said, this is what we want to be downtown. And that is really attractive to a developer to say, well, if this is what they want, let's give them what they want. Like, we're providing all of that data for everyone. So I'm in big support of this. I think we budgeted it for a reason. I think this firm was chosen for a reason. I think the other firms that didn't respond for a reason, because they probably felt like we're not going to be the best one to do that. So I have full confidence in this, and I want to move forward with it as quickly as possible.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berry.
After reading the proposal that Kimberly Horn sent, and I appreciate them asking the question, are you ready? Are you ready for this? And yes, we are ready. They know about, I'm sure they're paying attention about the two proposals for around the mountain downtown, the overpasses and then not the overpasses. And they can work around that. They can work around that. And I feel confident that they will do this. No, I can't help it that we didn't have some others that put out a bid, but this is a start. And I'm in favor of this.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate everybody's inputs, questions and all, and the hodgepodge, I think it's been brought up several times. That will obviously be applicable to any new acquired buildings, structures. Those will be applied with, but we can't force it upon my building. My building exists, it's there, and you can't make it look different. It's just there, and everybody else along 98. Now, they can voluntarily, as they would want to, as I would want to, voluntarily kind of mix in with the thing, put planters out front, street lights, and that kind of stuff out front. I mean, that just takes time. We can't force them unless it's just acquired by the state or someone else. There's going to be hodgepodge down there until it's not there anymore. But it's interesting because this is 45 years ago, I think he said, Mr. Mayor, Travis, and how long this has been going on. I don't doubt it. So that's why the questions and answers to me were so interesting. And the response from staff, the purchasing agent, what's her name? Juliana, I'm assuming she wrote these, and she says that the architectural guidelines of 2008 may still provide value and support our vision. Our understanding is when the firm had asked, why didn't those work previously? So Juliana is responding to that. She says, our understanding is that these previous documents failed to gain support from the public and elected officials, which stopped it from moving forward. General feedback received from the public stakeholders while developing the downtown master plan was that the design guidelines were welcome, and this is where then and now appear to separate, provided that they were not overly restrictive / prescriptive in terms of items such as facade colors, materials, sign design, or text fonts. So I don't know if that sentiment's still going to exist in the public, but they said, it's funny, we all like to go to these different towns and they're all just, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but they're nice and they're clean, but we've got our own culture down here, and we've been attracting people to this area for a long, long time, and people love coming to Fort Walton Beach. I'm not saying that, some improvements here and there by individuals, myself, I paint my book, they're not there, but the previous one failed by staff's own answer is because they were too restrictive and prescriptive. And here we are saying, let's get restrictive and prescriptive on what can go up.
Nobody said that.
But I mean, it's design architect guidelines, and it says, well, I'd like mine to be brick like this, and they go, no, can't use the brick. You got to use stucco.
I think that's what we're going to ask, right? Those are the questions they would ask.
Mr. Frissette?
And May, just to clarify, those responses actually came from me to Juliana. So, so if I may help kind of clarify that, in 2019, 18, 19, as we're developing that, that general sentiment was we don't want to be told we have to have one color, coral pink like you see in some South Florida cities, or one color sign and font, and this is what you stick with. We want to have individuality, whether it is brick, stucco, other materials, there's metal facade finishes, lots of cool things out there that are unique, individual, but, kind of the reference in the master plan was a toolbox. You have a box of choices, and, you can pick these things. So that's, we're talking, prescriptive, restrictive is, we don't want to be told, here's the one you get to go with. They just want, some choices, something defined is the sentiment that we heard back in 2018, 19. So I was trying to convey to the consultant, we're not looking for one choice. It's, we want to hear from the community. We want to, put together a nice package of, here's just the general aesthetic design that we would love to see moving forward.
I mean, and just new construction built today, people build nice things. And what I was hearing you say, one of your big concerns was the setbacks. And, through planning and zoning, and that's what as I was going through this too, I was like, what is it that this will allow Chris or city to do that they can't do currently?
It won't allow anymore, but it may specify that you must do certain things or build to certain specifications or designs, whereas now you could, a lot of people build, real nice things, but there's another, group that don't, and so this is trying to go towards, higher quality and better aesthetic and architectural design than, maybe, some are going to want to build.
I just don't know of any buildings constructed in the city limits in the last 10 years that we wouldn't want here today. If they came in and wanted to do business, we would welcome them. So, planning and zoning, setbacks, I know you can take care of that, architectural pictures and guidelines, restrictive and prescriptive, but thank you.
Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? Council, may we get a motion on 7.4?
Mayor, I move to award RFP 24-004 for professional planning services and the downtown design guidelines to Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated for $124,000.
Been moved by Councilman Allegretto and seconded by Councilman Meade to award RFP 24-004 for professional planning services to Kimberly Horn and Associates. Further comment?
Nothing further.
Further comment?
We got a first and a second.
First and second.
Discussion.
I'm going to support it to keep the ball moving forward. I don't like the single applicant that applied for the bid. But at this point, you guys have done your due diligence, sent it out to 6 or 7 people. We budgeted for it, we got the money for it. I guess I'll support it so we can keep the ball moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Yeah, maybe to your comment directly, Mr. Mayor, about that skin in the game, and maybe back to where I started, which was the financial feasibility. We have $125,000 set aside for this, but we don't have any money set aside for a new financial feasibility study, so we might be theoretically putting together a project here for a project that's not financially feasible. So that's the cart before the horse. I don't have a question, just make a statement. I will not be supporting it just because I think it's for all the reasons expressed previously. So thank you for indulging me in the time.
Thank you. Council, please vote.
Did Mr. Barry second?
You seconded this time.
Both understood it.
Yeah, I heard my left ear work better than my right ear. And it does pass 4-1. Thank you, council. Now we're going to go to item 8, mayor and council comments, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Schmidt.
I just wanted to again congratulate the police officers for their awards. I've had some individual interactions with a few of them, and I can tell you that especially with Corporal Mooney, I had a vehicle stolen, Corvette, end of last year, and it was up in Atlanta, and Sheriff's Department up there didn't really want to do much, and he kind of helped track it down for us and get the information, and you know, we got it back. They had an idea of who could have possibly have done it. You know, at that point, nobody wanted to look into it. You know, he just wanted to keep pushing the envelope. When you get the car back, let me do fingerprints, let me do this, let me do that. You know, and it is nice to have city employees that want to. It would have cost me more money and time, you know, to go down that route, but I appreciate him pushing me to go down that route because it makes me feel like he wants to do his job, he wants to work hard, he wants to, you know, see the end result there, and as many of those employees that we can have underneath our roof is, you know, going to determine the successfulness of our city. So, you know, I like seeing those guys get their awards tonight, and you know, congratulations to them, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walker.
Just one little note, I wanted to follow up, Jeff, on the Paul's follow-up for the nuisance cats at the park. What have you found there as a response from them?
Yeah, they had relocated all of them. The ones that they were waiting on, we extended that a week. They took care of all of them, have been relocating them to another location. They had some get adopted, but the ones that were not adopted, they were relocated. So there's no more feeding at them.
Gotcha. So Paul's is the responsible party when city or citizens see a nuisance animal, be it a cat at a park or a rabid raccoon. Paul's is the contact. Is that correct? Can a citizen pick up the phone and call Paul's?
There's some animals that they don't, but yeah. Yes, correct.
And our police officers, if they notice a nuisance animal, they don't take actions against the animal. They call Paul's to take action, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So one other thing, Chris, is Chris still here? Did he leave? Oh. Where are things with 137 Moriarty?
The owner has been actually making progress in screening it. He's been doing a pretty good job. I'd say the most activity we've probably seen in a decade from him. And so we've had a few calls with Jeff Burns on it recently, just making sure everything's in order as far as process goes. But then what we've done, the bid to remove all of the debris that PO has been issued. But we had one of our other code inspectors, not the inspector that's been on the case, but one that was maybe a little more neutral and less, something that the owner wouldn't get worked up by speaking with. We did have another inspector go out and make contact with the owner just about a week and a half ago or so. To say, hey, look, we see you're making progress, but you need to try and conceal a little bit more over here, move these items. If you can get this stuff done. Fortunately, I don't recall, there was a date we gave him, I don't remember what it is offhand, but we did say, hey, look, if you get these last items cleaned up, you're good to go, and we don't have to come out here, but know that you do have this set amount of time, and we will follow back up with you on that date, and we'll be ready to come out and remove your items if they're not removed. So he did ensure our code inspector that everything would be done prior to that date. Like I said, he's done a lot of screening, he's made a lot of progress, so we are still hopeful that which in this next couple weeks here, when we go back to re-inspect, it will be cleaned up. If it's not, the PO for the debris removal contractor is issued and ready to go, and then we do have a process in place to give a couple of notice dates for when they're going to be on site and all of that we would send to the owner, certified mail and all, to make sure that he's well aware of it in advance. But everything's in order. We're just trying to give the owner just one last opportunity to get it cleaned up because he has been making progress in the last month.
Have the steps and procedures been modified through this process? I know that one was from 2000 and it just, was extensive, and some more got cleaned up, some got dropped, and some got added, and some got notified and all of that. I mean, I do similar work myself, and I know that procedural steps are really important, that they follow them. Have you guys updated your procedures?
We have wouldn't update it, but we've gone through them again to make sure. I mean, in this case, and the ones that have come in front of council, we had everything in order, but some cases have been going for a long time, like you're well aware of. What we're doing now, my code staff is actually, they've developed a weekly meeting that they're meeting weekly to go over these and discuss the process. We have some ideas to do a few code amendments to the code of ordinances that will hopefully help the process. So for nuisance abatement, those properties that are a nuisance to the city right now, the code doesn't clearly define how they're to go through city council and then go through the court system and the court process. There's some good language in some of the surrounding jurisdictions codes as far as nuisance abatement goes and what is property maintenance violations and those type of things. There's actually there's an international property maintenance code that's kind of a national standard for property maintenance. So we're looking at bringing in the next couple of months, putting together an ordinance update that'll clarify the nuisance abatement process for everybody, and hopefully also speed up the process and be able to utilize our special magistrate some more in it. That will speed up the process and also hopefully save some funding, some taxpayer dollars having to go through court, and that time will cost all those legal fees that we wind up accruing throughout that process. We're really hoping that we can really clean up that process moving forward, and that's what we've been reviewing. As far as the specific steps now, we are looking at when orders are recorded, because we have order 1, order 2, and the recording dates that we have to get those recorded with the county. And I was just speaking with my team this morning on that, just to make sure it's all in line, because we don't want this stuff to hang around so long. We want to get it done as quickly as we can address it, identify it. The statute has certain dates for when it can be done. So yes, we are reviewing it right now.
John Reynolds.
Just briefly, Mayor, thank you. I wanted to also mention that I was proud of the officers tonight that received awards. Very deserving, very compelling stories by the chief as well. And being up here for a little while now and getting to know some of these men and women that work for our police and fire departments. It's so important, that we retain these officers and these firefighters, because, these young men and women eventually age up a little bit and they become the next leaders of these departments, and it's so important that we keep them with the city. So I want to commend as well both chiefs who have done an excellent job of trying everything in the book to keep all of these police and fire officers and firefighters here in the city. I know that they're really wanted employees all around the county, all around the state, and I know that sometimes the lure of another $1,000 a year can be a little too much, but when the morale is really good, when everybody's really getting along and understanding what their jobs are and what they're supposed to be doing, That's a big deal, and it seems to be, I know it's not gonna be the case with every employee in every department and all the time, but it's really on a positive track, and that's a good thing. Also want to once again mention, we talked about it earlier, and I know a lot of the public wasn't in the room and maybe not watching online or watching the meeting after the fact, but had a long discussion in our CRA meeting earlier regarding lighting up our parks and adding security cameras in places where vagrants and miscreants, hooligans, all of your words that describe people who are up to no good, doing their up to no good things. And we know that that's an important thing, and we know that that's something that the public wants. And the council was fairly unanimous in agreeing that this is something that's very important to all of us and to all of the public, and that's something that we want to do within the city, and we want to do it quickly. It's not something that we want to wait 6 months just to get a bid for this and a year to get them installed. We want to get these things all put in right away so that you feel good walking through the park at night, so that you don't have to worry about is somebody sleeping under that bush or between those two air conditioners. When you see those kind of things in the community, you report them. Whether you report them to our police department, our code enforcement, you call or email one of us on the city council. Those are the kinds of things that we can take action on quickly, and those are the kind of things that we love to hear about, because it's something that affects a city resident's life, and that's our job up here, is to be the conduit for anyone that's in the public to take action on things. So it's a very positive discussion, and we're really working on that pretty hard. So again, if there's anything that we're missing, please do let us know. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berry?
Okay. You said it very, very well. I appreciate our police department and our fire department so much. I've been here since 1970, and the last 5 years I've seen such growth in the police department. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Chief Page, for that. The fire department is right there on spot too. I've seen a lot of growth just in the last year or so. So thank you for that. And I like us all working together. When I first came here, we had the vagrants, we had not as much as what we're having now. We have problems with pit bulls on my neighborhood. For some reason, they like our neighborhood. And we had an incident in my neighborhood that was not very good, but thank you to PAWS coming out and helping, and the owner paid for the vet bills. And so thank you. And also other problems that we have, people that are elderly. I'm seeing more and more people reaching out to their neighbors to help them. And that says a lot to me. If they're not able to mow their lawn or they can't afford to mow, we're all going out there to help mow the lawn. And I hope to see more of this, throughout our city, working together to help each other. That's what I feel. My part here is what I want to do to help you guys. So reach out to me. You got my phone number. You got my email. I wear my little red cap wherever I go, and stop me and talk to me, because I'm there for you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mead?
I agree. Thanks very much to the police and fire departments. A lot of great individuals. Congratulations to the mayor on the 15 years. That's a lot of years of service to the city as well. It was a good CRA meeting, and I'm hopeful next meeting we have will be a growth and and some of the tangible things that we can see with be it from the park across the street or the continued lighting and security in public areas. That is. So I look forward to seeing the growth there, and hopefully a little more continued expansion with it. Otherwise, Mayor, that's it for now.
All right, thank you. Well, I certainly want to add my congratulations to the police that were honored here tonight as well. I also have a good news story, and for those of you who see the baseball fields at our rec center, the new artificial turf is going on the infields. It's a work in progress at this point, but you can see exactly how it's going to look. There's enough of the artificial turf that's been laid. You go down there and look at it, and it's absolutely beautiful. And our young people who are going to play on those fields are going to be very grateful for that, because come rain time when we used to have to take a break and drag the infield to get it dry enough to play again. That won't be happening. We'll be able to, you know, bring April showers, bring May flowers, but it won't slow down the ball games. So really, really glad to see that happening, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And thank you to the Recreation folks for making that happen. And that's all I got. So now we're going to open up for public comments. Anyone who wishes to speak to us on anything that's not on the agenda, just come forward, identify yourself, and limit your time to 5 minutes, and you're good to go. The floor is open. Anybody? All right, if not, I'm going to go to item 10, resolutions. Resolution 10.1, 2024-2, a resolution to accept FDLE grant funding to purchase fitness equipment. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, accepting funding through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement under the U.S. Department of Justice, U.S. DOJ, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG, to purchase fitness equipment, authorizing the mayor to execute the certification of acceptance, authorizing a budget amendment, and providing an effective date. Chief Bay.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Each day, the officers of the Fort Walton Beach Police Department are required to respond to any type of emergency which may go on within the city. We test our officers at least once a year on their physical fitness abilities through a PAT test. Each year, the city has the opportunity to apply for different projects from the state of Florida, from FDLE. And this year, we applied for some functional fitness equipment totaling $6,000. And we respectfully request that staff recommends the City Council adopt Resolution 24-2, accepting $6,000 under the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, the JAG, authorizing the mayor to sign and accept the documents, authorizing the city manager and police chief to execute all necessary documents to complete the grant and grant-related purchases, and authorize the budget amendment to record the grant within the general fund.
Thank you, sir. Anyone from council have questions for the chief? Anyone from the public have a comment? Council, may we get a motion?
Mayor, I move resolution 2024-2.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Smith, second by Councilman Allegretto to approve Resolution 24-2 to accept FDLE grant funding to purchase fitness equipment. Further comments?
Keep getting every single grant you can, Chief.
Comments? Mr. Allegretto? Council, please vote. So it's passed 5-0. Thank you, Council. Item 10.2, 2024-3, a resolution amending the FY 2023-2024 comprehensive fee schedule. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the comprehensive fee schedule for FY 2023-24 and providing an effective date. Ms. Neighbors.
Good evening. As you guys know, and our budget this year, we do look at comprehensive fee schedule, which includes our recreation fees, growth management, water and sewer, etc. And we amend them, but sometimes we have to come back in the middle of the year and add or delete or change some of the items. This is a finance agenda item, however, it is what we did change, and the only thing we did change were 4 items that we added for SEPTED. That was the only change that was made to the entire schedule, and if you guys have any specific questions about the SEPTED item, this is here to answer your question.
Questions from Mr. Smith?
I would just like to confirm that these fees that we're adding are optional fees. They're not required fees for development or anything like that, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Other questions from council?
I have a question. I don't know if this is the correct place. I was going over the fees that, like for the water bills and is that the one that we're talking about?
The entire comprehensive schedule does have our water bill fees in, yes, but that's not being edited here.
Oh,
Yeah, just the highlighted ones, it's under growth management. Page like 12, I think, in the backup.
It looks like this.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, it'll be highlighted.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the crime prevention for
Okay,
environment.
okay. Then I'll wait until the next one.
Any other questions from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Council, may we get a motion?
Mayor, I move resolution 2024-3.
Been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Meade to approve 2024-3, a resolution amending the FY 2023-24 comprehensive fee schedule. Further comment? Comments? Council, please vote. Thus passed 5-0. Thank you, Council. Item 10.3, 2024-4, resolution to amend the FY 2023-24 budget. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the fiscal year October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2024 budget to make certain amendments to appropriations of city funds and approving an effective date. Ms. Neighbors.
This one is more of an administrative agenda item. All of the items that are in here have been already approved by you as a council. The only items that have not been approved are donations that we have received in. There is also the passport fee revenues that come in for the library and the museum, which they are allowed to spend those funds into the library and museum back when they get those. And then there was the tree mitigation fund. Those are all donations or people paying stuff in. Everything else, if you look on the backup in the column to the right, it'll tell you exactly what city council meeting all of those were approved. I guess in summary, without going through it in super detail, in the general fund, we are adding $1,467,701. In the law enforcement training fund, we are adding $81,659,000. And in the CRA fund, we are adding $117,790. So the new amount of the budget will increase across all funds of $1,667,150. Staff respectfully recommends City Council adoption of Resolution 2024-4 to amend the fiscal year 23-24 original adopted budget to be audit compliant. So if anybody has any questions on the backup listing, let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Neighbors. Questions from council for Ms. Neighbors? Anyone from the public have a comment? Council, may we get a motion?
Move we adopt 2024-4.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Meade and seconded by Councilman Allegretto to approve 2024-4 resolution to amend the FY 2023-24 budget. Further comment? Comment? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item 10.4, 2024-5, a resolution to apply for a national fitness campaign grant for outdoor fitness courts. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, applying for grant funding through the National Fitness Campaign for participation in the 2024 initiative to install and activate outdoor fitness courts, authorizing the mayor, city manager, and city attorney to execute all related grant documents and providing an effective date. Ms. Corcoran.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the Recreation Department budgeted $100,000 in this year's budget for fitness stations. So we've been actively looking for fitness stations, and we came across this company, the Fitness Campaign, the National Fitness Campaign, and they have really cool fitness stations along with also a $30,000 grant opportunity, which we would like to take advantage of, and they are requesting this resolution before they can give the funding, the grant funding. So the total cost of the fitness court is $185,000. With the $30,000 grant funding and the $100,000 that we have budgeted in our recreation budget, we would utilize $55,000 from the half-cent sales tax for the remainder of the project. And we have a really cool video we'd like to show you that shows you what we're looking at.
Thank you.
From college campuses to city parks and trails, we're bringing free fitness everywhere, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm Mitch Manaki, founder of the National Fitness Campaign. The National Fitness Campaign was founded in 1979 when we opened the first fitness store. Redesigned for the 21st century, the fitness court is the world's best outdoor gym. Our 7-movement, 7-minute system allows you to use your own body weight to get the perfect workout. Easy or hard, it will work for you. Our goal is to build healthy communities by making outdoor fitness an essential part of people's lives, so that each day is better than the last. Now more than ever before, it is vital that we move fitness outdoors to remain safe, healthy, and strong.
Michiganders, as soon as we can, we go outside, which is one of the reasons why the fitness court was such an attraction to us. What impressed us most was their basic philosophy that they want to provide world-class fitness for free. Surely anyone can use it, no matter what your age is, no matter what your physical fitness level is, no matter what your skills are. It is very adaptable.
Thousands of certified ambassadors will be trained to deliver classes, challenges, and clinics as part of our National Fitness Campaign. New programs are bringing students outdoors across America. The Fitness Court mobile app is your gateway to enroll in these programs. Simply scan the new digital wall with your phone to access a library of free workouts designed to optimize your experience on the fitness court. Learn the moves and take challenges as we dig deep to create impact for our partners across America. This year, we are thrilled to introduce Fitness Court Public Art. Cities have the opportunity to select a local artist to design their fitness court using the power of the arts and fitness outdoors in iconic public spaces. We're proud to have helped cities of all sizes raise millions of dollars from respected sponsors to support free fitness. Wherever fitness is a priority, you can find a fitness court. We're partnering with large cities using urban movement data to map the best locations for healthy infrastructure. We're bringing fitness courts to within 10 minutes of population centers everywhere.
They provide these wraparound services that, from a city's perspective, that's what you want in a partner like this. You want it to come presented to you on a silver platter with a bow tie around it. They're one of the best partners, I think, that I personally have ever worked with.
We serve almost 1.2 million members across Michigan, and this partnership really is an opportunity for us to bring scalable, free health and wellness opportunities to our community. So I would actually invite cities and organizations, big and small, to explore the opportunity to invest in fitness courts. To be very honest with you, the feedback from different municipalities and different communities has been very positive.
We're committed to raise $150 million to bring the campaign to 1,000 cities and schools, building the largest fitness movement in the world. Join us. Let's make world-class fitness free.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Allegretto.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Corcoran, the plan is for this thing to be at Ferry Park?
At Ferry Park, yes.
And where in the park?
So it would be behind the tennis courts, where the tennis courts are now, behind the tennis courts between the walking trail.
Okay. And then is there, or can there be, has there been any thought to budgeting maybe an additional $10,000 for a sunshade?
We can absolutely think about
I just, I watched that video, and I heard that guy say Michiganders want to go outside right away. And I get that for them. For us, maybe it's a little bit different during the summertime, and when we're talking about grabbing a hold of some metal bars and things of that nature, it might be a little more attractive to people to want to try it if it were shaded.
Sure.
And I really wouldn't want to move forward with a project like that without a plan to shade it. And I know that that's not an expensive thing in the total grand scheme of things, but it is something that I really think has to be a part of the project. Otherwise, we just have another one of those things that everybody's going to walk by at night and go, well, that'd be fun. But I mean, at night it'd be fun. And I know I'm making statements, but
yeah, we can look into that for sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Other comments from council? Mr. Smith?
There will be no reoccurring cost with this after it's installed.
There's not, no, it's just the cost to build it.
What's the life expectancy?
It has a 10-year warranty, and then we had 2 phone conferences with the group, and there was a 10-year warranty, but after that, we didn't really get it.
They may regret it in Florida.
What's that?
I mean, they may regret it in Florida. I mean, I don't know how it'll hold up to them.
They actually were part of the trail. They were excited about us being in the middle. They opened one at Mariner Park. Is that the one in Pensacola? And there's one in Panama City. They said we'd be a perfect fit for it because we're right in the middle. And they're trying to develop a trail down the state of Florida. So.
And it's going between the tennis courts and the field, right?
No, the tennis courts and where the walking trail is.
Yeah, okay. Because I know the
pickleball.
No, the
Disc
disc
golf.
golf's
Disc
out
golf,
there.
yeah. It won't be in the way of disc golf
I
there.
just know there's a nice clump of trees there. You're not gonna have to take out any trees.
We won't
for
take
it.
out any trees. There's no trees where
We'll
we're
add
doing
some.
this.
Don't touch it.
Which that
But there are beautiful oaks
that
there.
tree mitigation on the budget, and we have 76,000.
Yeah, so we have $1,000.
It's like free money.
Jeff's not taking trees out.
No way.
Well, and then Nick, on your sunshade there, I know we got some over at the rec center not too long ago, but those were like permanent things. This is more of a sunshade, right? Have we bought any of those?
There's
before?
local companies. We'll get some prices and look into it. It'll be a combination of trees and some sunshades we can do out there.
Other questions or comments from council? Mr. Reed.
Thank you for your efforts. I'm assuming since you brought it to council that the price seems reasonable under the circumstances of what they're providing. I know fitness equipment is very expensive.
It does, yes, and with that grant opportunity that they're offering, we just felt like that was just an added bonus.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you using a grant. We're putting that $60,000 to good work, right? I share with you, Mr. Alexander, about the sunshade. You know, we're accustomed to being out in the sun and the humidity and all that, but many of our visitors, you know, especially our snowbirds people, they need the shade.
Right, yeah, no, that's a great point. We can look into getting pricing for that.
Yeah, hopefully you can get some TDC money or.
Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? Please identify yourself and your address, and then go ahead.
My name is David DeVoe. I live at 348 Marie Circle, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I'm a city resident. And I noticed at this meeting, we've been talking a lot about recreational facilities and things like that. I live over by Bruner Middle School, and one thing I noticed, and I'm not too sure if this exactly goes to that ordinance or not, but on Jet Drive and Holmes Boulevard in the Triangle, there's a pickleball place and a basketball courts. I've never seen that place so packed, more than I've ever seen it, ever. And I lived in this city since 1965. And one thing I noticed when I go by all the time, there's no restrooms there. Now, I did notice that out there by the Fort Walton Beach Golf Course, we have restrooms there, the pickleball courts, and we got the tennis courts in the past. But there's no restrooms there, and I thought that park has been used more than anything I've seen in a long time. And I don't know if the city has, you know, not this year or next year or whatever, but a long plan to put bathrooms there. Because I see the need for that.
We've got one delivered and it's coming in June.
What's that?
We've got one coming in June.
Great.
The same one at the golf course. It's that same
Okay.
building.
And I'm just like, I've been there so many times, I keep thinking, man, that has been more
You're exactly
ever.
right. You're right.
You know, and I said, man, we need some bathrooms there. So that's what my comment was. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
And one other thing, maybe, I don't know if this is feasible or not, but I got 26 grandkids, probably 15 of them is probably under the age of 10. You know those splash parks? I don't know if we ever have that in line to do splash parks. I know they got one in Niceville and different cities.
We got one coming too?
We got one coming. Been great.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Maureen Gordon, I live in the city of Walton. I just want to say, if somebody uses the walking trail at Ferry Park, I'm very excited about this. And I think it'd be really good. If it's too hot, I'll wear gloves, I don't care. I know I saw the pictures of it when the agenda came out. I think it's a great idea, and I hope you guys all support it. It'd be super.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Misty Pounders. I'm at 21 Comet Street. I didn't really know where to bring this up, either CRA or here, but this was a perfect opportunity. I totally support this. And I have questions. We have a park on our street. Been here a long time, third generation on that street. Comet Street Park was put in as an answer to a blight home that was being used for drug dealing. That park has an area where there's a lot of pine trees. A lot of times when they go to clean it up, they're just pushing pine straw. And one of the things I thought, I was in Crestview recently, and they have a park that has exercise equipment. There's a lot of us that work from home now. I would absolutely love to incorporate more of like this type of activity into our parks. I can easily go to Ferry, it's close, but my local park is walkable. You're putting in the Coral Creek Boardwalk, you're renovating and redesigning the federal housing, or, you know, the housing down in that area. So I just don't know how to get on the books of like, hey, can you look at our park too when you're doing this stuff? Because I know our area is not always an area people like to come to, but as someone who's watched it improve over 30 years and see people bringing their kids to that park, I would totally like to see us get something similar to. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, council, maybe we get a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to let me start over here. Mayor, I'd like to move for adoption of resolution 2024-5, applying for grant funding through the National Fitness Campaign in a total amount of $30,000 for participation in the 2024 initiative to install and activate outdoor fitness courts, and utilize $55,000 from the restricted fund balance and half-cent sales tax to go toward the project, with an additional $10,000 budget from the restricted fund balance and the half-cent sales tax to go toward a sunshade that can permanently shade that amenity to our city.
Second. Thanks, Sue. Been moved by Councilman Alvarado, seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve Resolution 2024-5 to apply for a National Fitness Campaign grant for outdoor fitness courts, plus add an additional $10,000 to this request for the sunshade.
Mayor, I thought it might have been, just speaking from my own experience there or something, but as soon as it came out of my mouth, I saw all these heads nodding up and down. So I think I might be on the right track with that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments?
Just a procedural record. I want a sunshade there too, for sure, but just a procedural question, I guess. With it being on the agenda for this budgeted amount, is it okay to approve more with it? Because is that procedurally okay? You can approve more. Okay. Is it?
And if
I wanted to make sure you messed it up.
I mean, this is, and again, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but this would be something that would be then, we'd have to make a budget amendment for in the future.
Right, it'll come as the 55 plus the 10, so it'll be a total of 65 for this agenda item that'll come back.
Because we have the 65 in restricted fund balance, it's not been budgeted, allocated to anything other than restricted fund balance. It's got to go somewhere. And so, then it can go just right back in the same pot.
Always like procedures.
Yeah.
I just, Ms. Cobb nodded her approval as well, so we're good. So, thank you. So, council, please vote. Just passed unanimously. Thank you, council. That'll bring us to item 11, ordinances on first reading. Item 11.1, 2139 ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 5, supplemental standards for townhouses. Ms. Cobb.
This is ordinance 2139, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 5 of the Land Development Code for supplemental standards for townhouses, providing for authority, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is first reading.
Mr. Presenti.
Thank you. Chris Presenti, Growth Management Director. So this is an item to make a few changes to the standard for townhomes. I mentioned a couple months back now we brought an item to amend some driveway standards for other types of residential developments, and I mentioned at that time that we were working on a few similar updates for the townhomes. We just want to separate them out because the townhomes have their own set of standards within the Land Development Code. So what we've done here, I'll kind of go through them quickly, is we've made just a few small changes to the standard for townhomes. The first change is regarding setbacks. Currently, in the Land Development Code, in Chapter 5, it specifies certain types of development standards that follow the base zoning. So if it's in the R2 or MX1 say zone property, it has to follow certain standards, and it says for all other standards it defers back to the specifics for townhomes. Side setbacks are identified for townhomes. in Chapter 5. However, there's no front and rear yard setback identified, and based on the language in the code, it basically doesn't require any minimum setback, so it can be built right to the property line. That was something that, and over the years, the various townhomes that have come in, we've talked to the design professionals that have designed those plans and received some feedback, and we've got two that are currently, we're working with developers right now through that development review process and getting that started. And so based on feedback we've received and talking to even the most recent ones, we're proposing to add a minimum front and rear setback of minimum 20-foot front setback for the townhome and a minimum rear yard setback of 10 feet. We received good feedback from the engineers that we've worked with, and like there's two in progress right now that both would meet the standard or all the standards that we're proposing. And then the second standard is regarding the location of driveways for lots that are basically the corner end lot adjacent to a side street. Is that similar to the ordinance that we had in front of you all a few meetings back for other residential properties, is that for those driveways for lots on the side yard adjacent to a right-of-way, basically they won't be less than 15 feet from that side street intersection to allow for some little bit of distance and space for queuing and all on the street for safety, and shall not be less than 50% of the lot width, so not less than 15 feet. So if the lot was 30 feet, that's 15 feet. If the lot is actually, it can go down to about 25.5 feet. It would then defer back to that 15 feet. If the lot's wider than 30 feet, then it would be a little bit over 15 feet, depending on wherever that 50% is. So, like I said, there are a few small changes. We did bounce this off a few design professionals that are working with us right now, and they were supportive of the changes. Felt it was good to just kind of clarify these items moving forward. What we ran into was that the current language for driveways, like the previous item that we brought a few meetings back, if the lot was narrow enough, based on current language, it would not allow a driveway to be built on that end lot. So that's obviously a problem to not be able to put a driveway there. So we just want to put some language, I'll clean that up, and then also clean up the language for the setbacks. This did go to the LPA at their meeting last week, and they did unanimously recommend approval of this from them. So with that, staff respectfully recommend approval of ordinance number 2139, amending chapter 5 of the Land Development Code supplemental standards for townhouses. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions from council for Mr. Paccetti? Go ahead.
I have a question here about 1.2.3. This section provides side setback requirements for the end units, however, does not provide any requirement for front or rear setback.
That's how it is currently. We're proposing to add those in.
You're going to add that?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
Yes.
that. Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment?
Since we're talking about townhouse revisions, my name is David DeVoe. I live at 348 Marie Circle, Fort Walton Beach. I am a general contractor in the city of Fort Walton Beach. I've been a contractor since 1978. I've built a lot of townhouses in the city of Fort Walton Beach since 1978. And one thing I noticed a couple years ago, is they redid the definition of what a townhouse was. Okay, and the definition, I'm still pretty sure it's still the same, is it has to be 2 stories. Okay, I built a lot of single-story townhouses in this city. And I couldn't understand why the city would go from 2-story, 1-story or 2-story or 3-story or 4-story, only to 2-story townhouse. So the definition, there's a lot of townhouses, and if you go down different places, I can tell you all the streets and everything that has single-story townhouses, where I call them patio homes or whatever. They're 1-story townhouses, basically. And maybe since we're doing this, maybe we can eliminate the size of townhouse. In other words, if I went, and I still own property over on Elm Street, that at one time I built 2 duplexes that were considered townhouses because I split the lots up and they were single story. Now you couldn't even do the same thing. I still own a vacant lot there on the corner of Elm and Oak Street, Elm and Tiffany Court. And then I was noticing other things, even a single story, because most older people are going to single floor units instead of 2-story. And I even mentioned years ago to the city staff that what happens to 3 stories? I've been out in Destin and we got 3 and 4-story townhouses. And why are we starting to limit just to only 2-story? And I thought maybe, I don't see any difference of why we would not do that, but other than somebody just said 2-story instead of 1-story, or 2-story, or 3-story. And so, since we're doing this now, in the first reading, maybe we can change that to limit the height or 1-story. I have no problem with 1-story. Most people in the city would rather have a 1-story townhouse than a 2-story townhouse.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comment. Other comments from the public? Seeing none, council, may we get a motion?
Mayor, move ordinance 2139, amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 5, supplemental standards for townhouses.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilman Allegretto and seconded by Councilman Meade to approve 2139, ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 5, supplemental standards for townhouses. Further comment? Further comment?
I would be entertained to maybe discuss with Mr. Persetti at a later date the elevation sizes, and if it's appropriate and necessary, we could come back and adjust it. But thank you for always honing our codes and ordinances.
Question on it, Chris, Mr. DeVoe, is that right? Yeah. So, I'm in real estate and hearing different languages. Oh, it's a condo, that's a patio home, that's a townhome. And so what is a single-story attached unit called?
Well, so we have duplexes, triplexes, and so on. From there, you can have them as apartments. A townhome in our code is really when you have individually parcelized units that can be individually sold off that are single-family residential attached. They're considered single-family lots. However, they're attached units, individual parcels that go through a subdivision plat and then go through, development order construction from there. If you're, looking to, it kind of depends on that ownership structure, that whether you're renting, selling. We've had a lot of townhome developments actually come in since I've been here, under the current code. What Mr. DeVoe said, correct about the 2-story. It's been in there, I know, since at least 2012 in the current code, when the current code was adopted. So it really comes down to, when we speak to people, they're looking to do multiple units, and we say, okay, well, which way are you looking to go? Are you looking to go townhomes that you're going to have individual parcel lots that can be sold if you so choose? Are you looking to do one platted lot with multiple units for apartments to rent? Are you looking to do condominium and association and all that process? And it kind of comes down to preference there. With the townhomes, when we're looking at the height and square footage, density, and all, is that these individual lots can be a minimum of 1,400 square feet for a townhome lot. Much smaller than a typical single-family residential lot. If it's an R1 lot, you're typically looking at 7,200 square feet. If it's an R2 lot, you're looking at 5,000. In this case, it's 1,400 square feet. So with that, you have to, it's kind of like putting the puzzle together. That you've got a 1,400 square foot lot. You can have, say, a max impervious surface of 75%. So that gets you, over 1,000 square feet of buildable space. You got to fit a driveway in there. Then you're factoring in stormwater retention, whether it's on each lot or there could be a common stormwater area. You've got to deal with kind of all these pieces in there. So, when you're looking at square footage of the lot, and you find square footage as a unit, I think, part of that, looking at the 2-story, is that it provides buildable area, square footage for a unit as well in there. But a lot of different ways you can go with it.
And I'm trying to figure out, just for curiosity, because you can have a triplex that they're all single-story, and they're on a divided lot, and they're single-story. They're just not called a townhome, so they don't fall in this.
Exactly.
So, with the, newer concept of tiny homes, there may be someone who wants to build 3 tiny homes, single-story attached, patio homes in the old days, and would they fall under this or a different? because I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, no, it really comes, in the current code, it comes down to what type of parcel are you looking for one parcel, or are you looking for multiple parcels, taxable parcels?
Three that are attached, and
Right.
they're vacant, we see the lot lines on them and all, and
Yeah.
I'm the owner of the property, and I go,
Yeah.
I want to be built two stories on each end, and then a single story in the middle. They're separate lots.
Right, separate.
So you've got two stories, and then one single story in the middle of it. Is the one in the middle gonna fall under some other guidelines than these two?
Right, if you're looking for the individual lots, like you mentioned, it would have to fall into the current townhome development. If you're looking to do kind of tiny lots or tiny homes on tiny lots, based on current language.
So you have to go two stories.
You would, and if you're looking to go for small little lots, attached, residential attached. If you're looking to have them on one parcel, not individual lots, but one for the entire site, then you can have them 1, 2 stories, anything you want, attached, detached, just based on density. So,
It seems weird that you wouldn't be able to come
For sure.
down,
Yeah.
build smaller, but to require a homeowner that may have a smaller budget than someone else, or even a developer who wants to build three because they're
For sure.
500 square feet each, 600 square feet each. We're hearing about more and more of those, so to require them to go 2 stories, just.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a good discussion, because there's a lot of ways, like I said, you see a lot of trends with that. We're seeing a lot of the accessory dwellings that are the small little, kind of tiny homes, or container homes, and things like that, so.
Any other comments from council? Council, please vote. Does pass 4-1. Thank you, Council. Brings us to item 12, ordinances on second reading. 2128, ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11.12, record operations and services. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2128, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, providing for authority, amending Chapter 11.12 of the Code of Ordinances, Wrecker Operation and Services, as authorized by Chapter 323.002 and 71507 of the Florida statutes, providing for severability and providing an effective date. This is second reading.
Thank you. Chief Page.
Good evening again, Mayor. Robert Page, Chief of Police for the City of Fort Walton Beach. The city manager and police chief are tasked with the record ordinance and operations services for the City of Fort Walton Beach. On January 23rd, 2024, the first reading of this ordinance was brought to City Council. At that time it was tabled, so we had a workshop with industry professionals, which we had. We brought back that information, and we had a second first reading. At that second first reading, there were some minor changes that were made, and they're found in section 2.7 of the staff report. 2.71, all record operators will be in compliance with federal, state, and local laws, which can be found on page 369 of your backup documentation. The other change was in the call allocation system. The 7-mile radius and the 4 qualified records was all stricken from the ordinance, and the ordinance now reads, all rotation operators will have their primary place of business located within the city limits of Fort Walton Beach, which is on page 372 of your backup documentation. And the final one was record operator requirements. The record operator's storage lot must be located within the city limits, which is found on page 373 of your backup documentation. Those are all the changes that were made at the first reading. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Questions from council for the chief? Anyone from the public wish to comment?
Mike Holmes, 114 Edwards Lane. First off, I'd like to thank the chief and his staff for indulgence with working with us on the ordinance changes, and ask for your consideration in approving this on second reading. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Council, may we get the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2128 of, I'm sorry, is it 2128? Yes, 2128 order, amending chapter 11.12, record operations and services as recommended by staff.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Walker and seconded by Councilman Meade to approve 2128 ordinance amending Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11.12, record operations and services. Further comments? Comments? Comments, Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Okay. Council, please vote. does pass unanimously. Thank you, council. That'll bring us to item 13 for action, direction, and discussion. Item 13.1, Arts and Design Society lease amendment number 2, 17 First Street Southeast. Mr. Peters.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I received a call from Helen Harris, president of ATSA, about a little over a month ago, and sat down and discussed the extending the lease at the historic ATSA building on they're on First Street. Right now, the lease is set to expire in 2030, and they're asking for a 10-year extension in order to apply for a lot of grant funding for various projects that were listed in the backup, and I know Ms. Harris would be more than happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Harris, you'd like to enlighten us?
Yes, thank you. We have been in that building since 1968. We've done some extensive redoing on it already. We spent $35,000 redoing the entire electrical thing several years ago when we had the first lease. And we have now a lot of work to do in one of our main rooms where we have a lot of the kids' camps. We do a lot of classes for children there. We have had to extend our summer program to 3 weeks now because most of the schools are not doing art. We do the Van Porter show. I want you to know right now that there is half of your audience here are the members of either the Arts and Design Society, the Playground Amateur Radio Club, and the German Mineral Society. We are all very interested in this. We have worked hard on the building. Everybody has done their own work in their own areas. But in order to get any grants, we must have a minimum 10-year lease when you're in the building. And so that's why we are asking you to please extend our lease. We really need it, and I think Fort Walton Beach needs it. We are the only entity of that kind here. We have a clay area, we have kilns, where even the college in Niceville has asked to use our kilns because their kiln is constantly breaking down and come here. You cannot get our kind of work anywhere here unless you go to Pensacola, which has some, or all the way out to Santa Rosa Beach. Our German Mineral Society is the only lapidary courses here. You have to go to Alabama or East Florida to get anything like that. Our radio club does a lot for the entire counties here, both Okaloosa, Walton, and Santa Rosa. So we would really appreciate the extension so that we can continue to keep that historical building going and keep the inside and the outside going, because we're also having some roof problems. So we're going to have a lot of that. So I appreciate it. If you have any questions?
Thank you, Helen.
Are you a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
We do a lot of fundraising on the side.
Yes.
But it's just too much for us to do right now to get that kind of money.
Any other questions for Ms. Harris? Let me say before we go any further, I appreciate all of you folks that are here this evening in support of this, because I see the radio operators and I see the artists, and I absolutely appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from council or anyone else from the public?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dustin Stewart. I'm a resident of Niceville, but I come down here frequent in Fort Walton Beach all the time because I'm the president of the 501c3 Playground Amateur Radio Club Incorporated. So everybody here pretty much knows what amateur radio is. I've briefed you guys before. Mr. Elgar remembers me. A couple of you others may remember me, Travis Smith, and Mr. Mayor Ryerson. Sorry about that. It's good to see you all here, and we do appreciate the opportunity to speak. So we've been at the Playground Amateur Radio Club located at 17 First Street since 1971. We've been in the buildings since just after turnover of that side of the police station where the jail is. And even our vice president, who can't be here tonight, spent the night there as a young man in the jail. We've been here since. So we do love our home. I have my other team members and executive staff with me from our club here tonight and representation on behalf of the ADSO. And we just wanted to say that we do love the facility, we take care of it, we maintain it, and we view it as an integral part of the community with one of the only test benches in all 5 counties here in the Northwest Florida Panhandle, and that we intend to stay there as long as we're allowed to reside in that facility. The maintenance that we do over there is free of charge. Obviously, we're 501c3, so we just held our 54th annual HamFest, which is an electronics trade show. We were at the fairgrounds. So that's 54 years of just doing that and bolstering the community, bringing revenue into the city and things like that. So we had over 410 attendees, and while it doesn't sound like a lot, for a town like Fort Walton Beach to experience that much of an impact of amateur radio operators that are in the aging community, while we try to recruit newer and younger people, it actually speaks volumes as to the level of interest that we draw. So as a member of Playground Amateur Radio Club, I hope that you will vote in favor of extending this lease. I feel it would be beneficial not only for the ADSO, Rock and Jump Society, and the Playground Amateur Radio Club, but as far as emergency communications capabilities statewide. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Seeing none, council, may we get a motion?
I make a motion to extend the lease for ADSO lease amendment number 2 expiring September 30th for another, is it 10 years that you're asking?
2040.
2040. Yeah, 2040. Oh, I see it here, till 2040.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman DeBerry and seconded by Councilman Allegretto to extend the lease for the Arts and Design Society lease amendment number 2 to 2040. They're located at 17 First Street Southeast. Further comment?
Mr. Berry.
Mr. Berry, further comment?
No, thank you for all you do. Thank you for your ham operator, especially during hurricane season, and thank you. Appreciate you.
Other comments? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. And again, thank you for all being here and sticking with us till 8:05 this evening. Thank you. Yeah. City manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few quick ones. We are looking at, on the 26th, we've got a City Hall update, kind of a project plan type deal workshop scheduled for 4 p.m. Here in the council chambers before the regular meeting that's at 6 o'clock, and that's to discuss kind of the background and update information on the City Hall project. That is at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, March 26th, followed by a regular council meeting at 6 p.m. The other update, which we discussed a few meetings ago, but there's the council priorities update scheduled for April the 16th, which at 8 a.m. And that would be, we're looking at doing that over there in the annex, but that would be at 8 a.m. on April the 16th.
What are we doing? What is that?
That's the council priorities update. We'll schedule some time for each one of and discuss them openly over there in the workshop. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cobb?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Wow. All right, council, last bite at the apple. We'll start with Travis again.
Jeff, I know we have the mural coming back at the 26th meeting. The rest of that project that's up against that wall, do we have a time frame on completion on everything outside of what we haven't approved yet, the mural and stuff like that?
We're working on some insurance deals with the property right now, but we will bid out the turf area and do some of the stuff in-house. Public Works crews doing the concrete and stuff, but we're doing some final touch-up stuff on the insurance requirements from their side on the property.
Do we have an ETA, you think?
We're hoping to get Kim and Jeff Burns have been back and forth with Mark Mathey, working with them, so we're hoping to get that wrapped up this week. So we can get going. As far as bidding it out, it'd be out for 30 days. So we would hopefully look at installation of around May-ish.
Okay. And then can you give me an update of where we are on our parking lot before the season absolutely blows up?
Yeah, well, so we had some discussions with the Liza Jackson Land Trust Company here at City Hall, probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, threw out an option of possibly charging a fee for parking. That's something we just got to get back and forth and finalize, maybe in discussions, get you involved and with them and Kim and I, we can sit down and maybe try to finalize.
Yeah,
something.
I think we need to get that nailed down because it's about to get out of control. So having something in place before it does, I think is absolutely a better way to go about it.
Were you wanting to join us in those meetings as a representative for council, or just have Jeff and I?
I mean, I have no problem being in those meetings. I would assume,
Probably a good idea.
I would assume that whatever came out of those meetings, it would come back to council to be an agenda item.
When a proposed deal or
Yeah.
final solution is put together, but right now we're still working out details. So
Yeah,
if you want us to do it, that's fine, but you're welcome to.
I would have, if you guys think you can handle it, by all means handle it. If you would like my input on it, obviously, because I have been talking about it now since I've been up here, which is April, 3 years, I will be more than happy to be involved in the meeting with you guys. Anything I can do to help.
Well, you can definitely join us.
Okay, that's all I got.
Mr. Walker?
Just once again commend staff, and I think we brought up the reporting concerns earlier, but that is just I find myself telling people about that. Well, I'm saying they'll call me to complain about a spot in the road or some bushes or some overhangs, and I'm like, have you reported the concern? And they're like, well, how do I do that? I send them to that website. It's really fast, efficient, and everybody that's used it that I've heard back from, they said the issues have been addressed quickly. So go to fwb.org and then go to the report of concern, and you can do track, road, parks and recreation, and one other thing. So it's just really handy, and I don't know who all gets it in there, but it's handled so efficiently, and just really love promoting it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Allegretto?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Berry?
Again, thank you for updating, where's Makiko here? Updating our website, FortWaltonBeach.org website, to include ordinances and all that other stuff. Because I've been referring a lot of people to those when they ask me, well, what ordinance is this? I said, well, go look that up, you know. So I really appreciate all that and all that you guys are doing here at the city. I think we're working well together, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Meady?
Workforce housing. When we had our last meeting where we passed the ordinance, and I probably should go back and watch the video or read the ordinance that was actually executed, but it was my understanding we were passing a system that one could apply, whether they met this or this number of units they were applying for. But it seemed, in interacting with individuals from the public or with staff, it seemed as if there's an indication that we actually approved these projects. And I was hoping for some clarification because
Which ordinance are you referring to?
the workforce housing ordinance where we had, if it was, and so I think that
So, I mean, if I'll just offer my own clarification as the one who made that motion, I was approving the funding to the projects provided that they pass and meet all the qualifications that we already had set up. That was the intent of the motion.
Okay.
I was going to basically say the same. That was kind of how we took it now, because some of the applicants did ask us afterwards that we're involved in this, obviously, with those projects, and we took it as that. But we felt that if we had another small small scale project came in that kind of fell in that same size category as small, we would take that same recommendation and apply it to them, to bring forward to you guys for consideration. Likewise on the large side, it's still. They still have to apply, they haven't gone through, they have to submit development order, they have to submit site plans and come back, and that's where we're working at with them right now, but that was our goal.
In the sense that we've exhausted the funding that we had in that fund,
Yes.
and if someone else came back to your department and applied with all those same things, they would fall under whatever level of funding, and then that could come back to
Yes.
city council to see if this council wanted to fund any additional projects.
Exactly.
Yeah, the motion actually says, Councilmember Allegretto made a motion, seconded by Councilmember Walker, to fund the two smaller projects at $75,000 per door unit, and the remaining $26,291 to go to the Housing Authority, and the vote on the motion carried 6-1.
But I can definitely see where there's ambiguity regarding whether, like, that's just giving them the money regardless of anything else. The intent was definitely always to have them meet all of the standards that we had set forth.
And I believe they do based on our discussions with them afterwards.
Sure.
So if they don't ever apply, does the money sit there in perpetuity?
Yeah.
Until you guys direct us to reallocate.
Until someone else would come apply.
No. It can't be reallocated by the council's decision, to repurpose it.
Mr. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the state of Florida also pass workforce housing recommendations, or help me out here, Ms. Cobb? They were talking, did they pass a bill about?
I know they passed multiple bills on the 8th. I will have to check and see the specific one you're referring to.
Okay.
We'll come back to you.
Because such as they had, the developer had to meet such certain criteria. And what I'm hoping, help me out here, you guys, what I'm hoping is that you'll work with whatever the state passed so that the developers will meet that criteria, you know,
Sure.
before we
Yes.
give them, yeah.
I'll get Ms. Coughlin to confirm.
Yeah.
So
Certainly, and I just, again, I want to clarify that I certainly never intended in any way to say that me or the council have the authority to approve the projects because we're not the one grading them on the metrics that we've set forth. We set up the metrics, but it's, you know, your job, your staff's job to approve them based on their merit.
Absolutely.
And meeting the qualifications. And that's not an overnight thing.
Exactly. No, they've got us that submit a lot of documents, a lot of plans for review. With those development agreements, they would be back in front of council really for any final approvals, you know, individually, you know, as they come in and get through the review process, they would be back in front of you all to decide, okay, yep, are we good? They meet the criteria. Now you can award the funding.
We set the metrics that were missing previously.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We didn't ever know what that number was. We gave the framework, the numbers that obviously have to be modified again, but okay, yeah, they're, yeah, good point.
So we did create the framework, but we also initially allocated the funds to those projects within our motion. And so I'm kind of assuming that if those don't carry forward over the next foreseeable weeks, months, years, then staff would come back to council and say they were never used. Perhaps we should open it up to the public. Is that what we're?
That's really our goal, was that, you know, we're going to stay engaged with them, but if they tell us or it appears that they're no longer moving forward in the projects, that's when we'll be back and say, okay, you know, we've got this much money that's now not going to be allocated to something. What do we want to do with it then? So, you know, we don't have a defined time on that right now, but our thought was, you know, within the next, you know, 1, 2, 3 months, if it's clear it's not moving forward, you know, we'll give them a little bit of time here, and, you know, as long as they say they're going forward, we'll give them that time. But if it, you know, if they tell us it's not, then we'll be back, you know, or you know, it could be opened up to someone else or reallocated to something else.
Well, let's be clear, it's open to someone today.
Yes, anyone can
They
apply.
can show up tomorrow and apply.
Correct.
I know what the framework is, I'm gonna apply.
There just wouldn't be, there's not funding at the moment.
But that's what staff is telling the public is there's no point in applying because we've already allocated the money. That's
Yeah,
the reason for my question.
So it was a dual thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like, we're talking about the framework that we approve based on those guidelines, but those, and Nick, the motion said that it was to fund those as well.
It's a two smaller projects.
Which I guess, that's that procedural question again, I guess, in that it wasn't on the agenda as an item to approve. What was on the agenda was the framework, not approving 3 projects, correct? 3 projects were not on the agenda that night to get funding. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So would a portion of a motion that was not, approved, it couldn't be approved because it wasn't on the agenda to approve it. So does a portion of it being null and void do the both parts? Or is the framework still good? Because your motion included funding.
Yeah, I think the part that really, one way or the other, kind
I don't know, that's definitely.
I feel like we could fix that right now.
Personally, I would like to see what the agenda item was, because
That's
I
what I
can't
was-
remember offhand the specifics. I don't remember that it was an actual ordinance. I thought going,
It was a discussion action.
right, it was, from memory, it was a discussion item, not an ordinance. So I need to look at exactly what the staff report said to answer that, but I'd be happy to. And then just going back to that Senate Bill 328 did pass, so I will get with staff about how it would affect the code.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
So do we want to attempt to make any clarification to that at all?
I
Or
think you
you
need
know,
a little more information,
Right.
maybe first, if you're asking me the question. at
I
least.
am.
Maybe you could just send us a summary.
I would be happy to. I can email you all, and then you can talk about it in public again if needed.
Okay.
I think maybe the same motion, just without the specific projects, would solve it.
Well,
But voting on something that wasn't on the agenda, that's where we're at today, right?
And the issue would then remain that whatever that number is that went to the housing authority, it would be a number per door. And it would be based on nothing other than how much money was in that fund. Right? Because we funded the other ones at $75,000 a door. There were a small number of doors. The rest of the money went to the housing authority where there's 100 doors. So then any future projects in whatever framework that we looked at would be that amount of money. And again, not that I would anticipate we're going to do a whole bunch more of these based on those discussions, but if we were trying to establish a framework, I personally did a poor job on that. And I think we should definitely remedy that. So if you want to look at that and bring it back to us on the 26th,
Sure.
I think that would be adequate in trying to fix my mistake, so I apologize.
Well, we're not disagreeing, just as the thought.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I'm glad you brought it up, because I would hate for it to get down the road and we have some sort of misunderstanding. So, agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
No, it's all good. All right. All right. I have nothing further, so let's go home.
You got it.